Well, here we are. We've made it to another Friday, another edition of FinTech Fridays, and I am super pumped for our guest this week. We're going to kind of cover a lot of ground here in a short amount of time. So I want to welcome Danny Horanyi to our episode. Welcome, Danny.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Happy Friday, everybody.
Right on. I would say we would cheers, but hopefully at this point in the day you're just drinking a Bloody Mary at best.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe
I'm still on my Irish coffee. So
perfect. Well, I think you know the format. It's a no format. So we're just going to riff on a bunch of different topics. But I always open the conversation just kind of probing on the term fintech, and it's been pretty cool to over 20 plus episodes to hear people's perspective on it. There's a definite common theme, but there's definitely some paths around it that are interesting. I'd love to hear what the term means to you, both in your business life and then as a consumer.
Yeah, and I actually love I love this kind of raw format, Brian. It's inside of my genius zone. So thank you for that. And the thing I like about it is that, getting these answers without preparation, you get the raw truth, right? So, or at least that impression. And I want to start off answering that question by just giving a little bit of background about my perspective around, our responsibility inside of the financial services industry. And a belief system that I've kind of formed over my 18-year career, helping families, specifically in the mortgage industry. But I see that really extending beyond the mortgage, and that's part of my business philosophy as it relates to financial services. And one of my deeply held beliefs is that financial literacy improves communities, and I experienced that myself in my own life. When I was growing up, my dad still lives in the San Fernando Valley in California. He is a general contractor. But early on, right, 20 years ago, no, man, now it's, 30 years ago? Holy geez, Brian. 30 years ago, 35 years ago, when he was just getting started, self-employed, it was tough. And the times that we had back then when I was, in my, 8 to 13 range, I definitely felt the impact of the fact that neither of my parents had really been taught much about finances and managing finances. And even today, there are organizations that are making a very strong effort to bring financial literacy to high schools, bring financial literacy to even to junior high, just basic microeconomics, to manage your life. But it is still few and far between, and it's woefully inadequate. Right. And I know that it's inadequate because I can see the impact of the gap in financial literacy. And one of the things that this hit me back, I think it was, I'm trying to pinpoint the year, but I think it was 2014, was my very first time I ever helped a family that had a family office.
Right.
And this experience, Brian, blew my mind. So if you're listening to this or watching this, you don't know what a family office is. For the people that, let's call it, to use the parlance of our times, right, the 1%, they have surrounded themselves oftentimes with experts in areas that are critical to their success. So they have an attorney, they have a CPA, financial planner, and oftentimes a range of specialist attorneys. They have a family physician. They have all these things that they surrounded themselves with to keep them in their genius zone, so that they can focus. They know where their strengths are, and these weaknesses are critical to their success. And what hit me in that moment was that wealthy people are not wealthy because they have money. They're wealthy because they have access to superior information. And that was a super powerful realization, epiphany for me in my mortgage career. And it allowed me and my team at the time to kind of retool how we approached advice giving and what our actual purpose was in the lives of the families that we were serving. And we realized that we could really be the every person's family office. Like we had the ability to do that on a light version, right, of that, or at least be the hub of that for them. So the reason I share that as it relates to answering this question for you, Brian, is that what I see fintech doing, its purpose is to democratize financial literacy, to make it accessible, to make it automated, and make it such that the depth of knowledge that you would typically require as a consumer of, financial information, and then more importantly, and I'm going to give another contextual framework, Brian. So I might go off on a couple of rabbit trails here.
We got hours. So, you told me that when we started.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, longest podcast ever. So I believe there's a spectrum of information. So the least valuable thing you can get in your life is information. And the reason that on this spectrum, and the reason information is not valuable is that it's so abundant. And especially today, you can go and seek information and find information that doesn't serve you in any way. False information, things that take you and frame your mind in the wrong direction. So information is abundant, but it's also unfiltered, can actually be dangerous. So another derivative of information, which is more valuable, is insight. So you take all the information and then you say, Brian, this is the information that's important to you and your individual situation. So now you've gotten rid of all the junk information and you just have the information in front of you that actually matters to you. But one level deeper than that, and it's not just like a linear scale, this is exponential, right? So, insight's exponentially more valuable than information. Advice is exponentially more valuable than insight. So, Brian, here's the information that's important to you, and here's what you should do with it. That's the end. The purpose of fintech is to provide insight and advice to families so that they can better manage their financial future on a path to financial freedom, and they can improve their own micro bubble, which then extends out to the community.
That's freaking gold, man. That you may have just won the definition sweepstakes here, because you covered a ton, and honestly, nobody's talked about yet fintech in that context in terms of a utility for literacy. And what I love about the answer, and I love how you started the answer with that very specific use case from this wealthy family that you help. What I heard over the next 5 minutes was how you took what this family had built around them to maintain and build more success, and you've built it into your business philosophy, and you kind of said it. It's family practice for everybody, I think, is what you said, and
it's democratized family office.
So that's awesome. I love it, and it's so true. We don't think of. I don't think people think of. In that context, Google is fintech, right? It's a place where you can go get answers. Now, you may not get the right.
Well, it can be. Yeah, it can be. But I think it's fair to say it absolutely is. Like anywhere where you can go and get financial literacy, in a way that doesn't require you to access an expert human being. I think that would fit a loose definition of fintech. Yeah. But there's a big. I mean, this, Brian. You're in the business, right? There's a massive gap between poorly executed fintech and well executed fintech. Sure.
Absolutely.
I'll share another story. This hit me just this past Monday. I was at the Raiders Chargers game in LA at SoFi Stadium, and it's like you're just getting bombarded with SoFi ads, while you're sitting in the stands. But I was looking at I was thinking to myself, I don't necessarily, I'm not all in on this concept of abdicating 100% of your financial future to a device. I think that there's a hybrid model, which I'm sure that we can get deeper into that in the future. But I thought to myself, if I had to pick between the current state of financial literacy and financial health in our country today, and the state of information versus forcing everybody into a fully automated, zero human interaction model, that was just kind of giving up our financial future to the robots, I would pick the latter over what we have today. I think that there's an even better solution than that, but it's certainly superior. Fintech is taking us down a path that's superior to where the path that we have been on for the past 250 years.
Yeah, and I that's a great segue because I think we're going to go deep into this kind of this hybrid approach, because we're the same way. Yeah, at Finlocker we build technology and we sell technology for our partners to leverage with consumers, but at the end of the day, we haven't built our technology expecting that a lender is going to deploy their version of Finlocker and never talk to a consumer again. That's
right.
It's not a recipe for success for the consumer, for sure. And of course it wouldn't resonate from a success perspective for the lender. And so we fully subscribe to this kind of concept of high touch, high tech. And if we can deliver part of that high tech through professionals that have that high touch relationship and knowledge, then to me that's success. And I think that's a good segue into your role as chief strategy officer at Celebrity. As you guys are kind of looking at your platform, which is unique in the industry, how are you thinking about from your seat there? How are you thinking about tech and the overarching strategy for deploying tech and then having it available to your partners throughout the Celebrity ecosystem?
So, there's a lot of paths I can go down to answer that question, but I'll share, and this is just my personal view of what technology is meant to do, and how we're thinking of it and deploying it. So there's the intuitive answer is that we are deploying technology to try to improve the cost of execution, the cost of manufacture, right? Getting things that had previously been done, by humans, and have them moved over where appropriate to machine learning or to bots or to technology in general, broad brush. And there's another path, which is I think probably more important, which is that we look at what technology can do to enhance our client experience or our customer journey. And we think about where the appropriate entry points are for technology to really automate service to that family. A great example of this is an area of the mortgage business that's been woefully underserved for, really my entire career, maybe longer, is the post-closing experience. So once you have your mortgage, how's your mortgage managed in a way that results in really a successful homeownership journey? And that area has been massively underserved. And the reason, in my opinion, is that we haven't really done a very good job as an industry identifying ways to kind of monetize that event, right? And I'm not saying it's all about money, but there's definitely a factor of currencies are being traded. There's a lot of dopamine involved in the process of lead generation, like acquiring customers and then helping them and getting them to feel that you're the best solution for them. There's a lot of dopamine there, and then that's where the industry has decided to compensate. And then the post-closing event kind of feels a little bit stale. It's a different mindset that you bring to the table, and technology has done a tremendous job at filling in that gap. And there's a number of platforms, Finlocker being one of them, out in the marketplace that really addresses that. What now, right? Well, I don't want to have to keep the stack of papers. I don't want to have a thumb drive that I have all my stuff on, right? There's a better technological solutions for that addresses that post-closing event, and that's a customer journey thought process, right? And if done well, you get clients into an ecosystem that truly serves them, because the family office mindset, Brian, if you're only focused on the family office for that 30 days, you've missed a massive opportunity to really benefit somebody's financial future. And it's really my belief, and I have a number of responsibilities at Celebrity, as well as other business partnerships that I've engaged in that focus around this professional mission of the after, after that transaction. Like, how can you turn a 30-day event as a moment to create permission for a 30-year relationship that truly impacts that family's ability to move towards financial freedom and build wealth and stability.
Yeah, I think it's the last 20 plus months we have demonstrated that our industry is hyper optimized at the transaction level, right? It's how many widgets can you get through as fast as you can get through, and then you're on to the next batch. And I love where your head's at and how you guys are thinking about this this being this is just the beginning of a long-term relationship, and it may or may not create an additional revenue opportunity for the company. I happen to think it's the chances that it will are much better if you actually focus on it. But if you don't focus on it, of course, it's not going to ever yield another opportunity.
Well, Brian, I want to explore that a little bit, because I agree with the sentiment, but I want to reframe it slightly, which is that the transactions that happen should every time result from an opportunity to create value. Yeah. And so that's where, and think about any business transaction you engage in, right? Or even a personal exchange, right? A lot of times you're thinking, okay, like, what can I give to this? What are my expectations out? And the power of that 30-year relationship is that it's possible to create opportunities for value that would have otherwise gone missed. Based on awareness, based on expertise, based on the lack of insight, right? Information is there, insight's missing, and advice is definitely missing. Right. So the power of that 30-year relationship is higher frequency of advice, much higher frequency of insight. And if the insight doesn't result in any opportunity to create value, then that's in and of itself is advice.
Right. That's right.
Hey, don't do that cash out refi and buy jet skis, despite the fact that you just got a letter in the mail that says you can.
Yeah. I love it. So let's pivot a little bit now, because again, I knew when we got into this we were going to go down a bunch of different paths, because you're an interesting guy. You've got a lot of stuff going on, man. So you got your role at Celebrity, Chief Strategy Officer. Then you have kind of another role at Celebrity through Neo, right? So Neo is a brand, I guess, of Celebrity. Is that fair to say?
That's right. It's a division of Celebrity and a DBA that really is an extension of the Celebrity mission and value proposition. Or what I could say, maybe more accurately, is that it's a joining of forces between people that believe the same things. That believe the same things about our fiduciary responsibility to families, believe the same things about the opportunity to improve communities with financial literacy. And it's just let's call it a white labeling of that Celebrity value proposition.
And I've had the privilege to learn a little bit about what you guys are doing, and the story is great. I love the branding, and maybe just go into a little bit about what is Neo, right? What is it? What does it mean? And then beyond what you're doing for families, I think there's also a mission there for mortgage professionals that you serve as well.
Yeah, and so I'll go back to that moment, 2014, right? So I interact with that client who has the family office. It blows my mind, and I think we need to do this differently. And I had become familiar with and ultimately good friends with Dave Savage at Mortgage Coach, and there was just a ton of alignment there in terms of, oh wow, this is a way that I can really honor this realization that a higher level of advice. I've been using Mortgage Coach for many years, but I hadn't really pushed it into this idea that it's really a mandatory responsibility. It's not just a tool that I use to help build trust. It's actually mandatory. So that took me on, and my business partners at the time, on this journey of really building this machine around this idea of expanding financial literacy and turning those into mortgage opportunities, and then having that tail, and going and trying to spread the word about that, because I felt just absolutely inspired by this, and I wanted others to kind of rally around the same idea. And so I would, get on opportunities like this one, Brian, and use it as a megaphone. But what I realized was that my voice alone was not going to be enough. And what I recognized, and this was specifically through the community that Dave built, where he shares a lot with that community and shares a lot with the industry, that there were other people out there that were saying the same thing, but similar to me, they were inside of their company as a the lone voice. And so I had the opportunity, or we collectively had the opportunity to join forces. And so some of the names that are part of the kind of original founder group or co-creation group of NEO were Ryan Grant, Josh Metal, and Chris Ledley, Mark Robertson, and then Dave Robnett, the CEO of Celebrity. So I would consider Dave, to a certain extent, a co-creator of NEO. I mean, it's a business partnership that's embedded inside of the company that he created. And what NEO really is an opportunity to put out a very coherent value proposition that centers around what we've been talking about. It's a mortgage company built around this concept of this family office being the responsibility. And I would go even further to say that when we talk internally about what we do, what NEO is, and really this again extends to Celebrity because it's a partnership, we don't talk about the mortgage as the beginning and the end of the way that we serve that family. We believe that the mortgage is that entry point where it gives us the proper data to produce the insight and advice. And it also gives us, if we do our job really well during the transaction, it gives us permission to serve that family for the following 30 years. And so we have what we call the NEO experience, which centers around what we do before to help really guide a family into not just what they can do, but what they should do in regards to buying, selling, financing real estate. Then the smallest part of our value that we add to that family is during the transaction. It's really the smallest piece of it, even though intuitively, when the family show up at our door and say we need help, they're thinking that's what they're going to get. And then they get all the before stuff. And then really the power is they get all the after stuff. And so that NEO experience is really what I think sets the group apart. And to your point, though, about what, it extends beyond just service to the family. Just last night, we have monthly financial literacy Q&A webinars for our internal teams. We started doing that about 4 months ago. So last night was our 4th episode. The first 3, we reviewed the 7 Laws of Money from Richest Man in Babylon, and we just broke each one down. And then last night was a Q&A where we reviewed, how you waterfall your money between, your emergency fund and your, pay down your debt and, just kind of the process. And what we realized, and I'll go back a little bit, what we one of our team leads was in a conversation with one of their operational team members. I think it was one of their processors. And the processor was asking questions about, hey, I've been thinking about, buying a house. What do I need to do? And, hey, I have a bunch of money in a safe, and that's what my parents told me that I should do. And so that's what I've done. And, and it just again, that epiphany moment, holy crap, we have people here and we're out there promoting and inviting all these people that we don't even know yet, right? That they're, will be our friends, but they're not yet. And we're not even looking into our own house and thinking about how we can improve the lives of the team members that are trusting us. And so we've built that, and the testimonials that have come out of the team, Brian, have been phenomenal. Sure. People buying houses, starting their 401k contributions for the first time in their life because they never understood the power of it. Taking money that they've accumulated in checking and putting it into even a very safe but interest-bearing account, because the cash drag and inflation has just been killing them for all this time. Super powerful stuff there. And then the last kind of group that we're trying to impact and make and really the way we talk about it, and maybe it's a little bit dramatic, so I'll bear with me on this, but we believe that our industry, the mortgage industry, is very clearly dividing between two distinct camps. One of those camps believes that the only way to provide value to a family is to provide them the lowest interest rate. And they've communicated to the families that's what they should be asking about. And then there's another camp, and NEO is not the only group doing this. There are others out in the world that are doing this. And so I want to thank anybody that's listening to this that knows you're in this camp. Thank you. We appreciate you. Keep doing your great work. And that second camp is focused on being the most valuable resource in a family's life. Yeah. And looking at the full spectrum of what impact can be created over that the 30 years. And that group, and NEO and Celebrity is in that group, they believe that what's your rate is the saddest question in the mortgage industry.
Sure. Yeah, I love it. And that's another great segue as we go to our last few minutes, because what I'm super pumped about is I love what you're doing at Celebrity. I love NEO inside of Celebrity. It resonates with our mission at Finlocker. It's something that I've thought about over my 30-year career as being mission. One of the top missions in our industry is not to get someone the lowest rate. Yeah, it's cool that you're at a cocktail party and you could say you got a rate with a 2 handle, but what does that mean, right?
Right.
I think what's super cool is you guys have taken what individually and collectively works for your team and for your families that you serve, and now you're making it available through the art of home ownership to other like-minded originators, and not companies per se, but individual originators. It's not like you're trying to pick these guys off and bring them into NEO. You're saying, here's the playbook, and here's how we've kind of wrapped technology around the playbook. We'd like you to, be part of this, but still do your thing over here under ABC Mortgage. And maybe let's just talk a little bit about kind of that story, because that's super cool.
Yeah, Brian, I think this, when you really want to know what somebody's about, you look at what they do, not what they say. And so when my business partner, Ryan Grant, started the Art of Home Ownership, what he was telling the industry was, I believe that families need to be served at this level, and I can't do it on my own, right? I need help. And I don't, I want everybody to have this playbook. And when I saw that personally, and I was inspired by it. And then when the leadership of NEO saw it, we were inspired by that and said, absolutely, we need to, again, I use the word democratize. We need everybody to have the tools to serve these families, because the problem is bigger than us. The problem is bigger than me or the co-creators of Art of Home Ownership or the co-creators of NEO, or it's bigger than all of us. And we need anybody that believes what we believe about the necessity to improve communities and the impact that we can have on families to have the playbook. And regardless if we never meet them, right, that they go out and have that kind of impact. I didn't fully tell the story about my my background. I transitioned into the family office experience that I had, and I introduced my own family experience in kind of slight contrast as like, hey, my family didn't have financial information, and then the family office, I was like, holy crap, this is contrast, right? But when I was, I believe it was 10 or 11 years old, my dad was in the Army. He met with some of his Army buddies, and one of them recommended to him that he use his VA loan and buy a house. And that totally changed the course of my life, because now my family, who did not have a ton of financial literacy, and it was clear based on our experience that there wasn't, stability coming from financial literacy, finally had a leveraged asset that was passively building wealth. And that put me personally on a path to be able to go to college, and probably wouldn't have been here on this call with you, Brian, if I didn't have that. So I want that for others. The people inside of NEO, the people inside of our home ownership want that for others. And we know that we can't do it on our own. And so we've taken the tools and we've taken the playbook, as you said, And we've invited anybody that's interested in having that kind of impact on a family's life to join us and, become a partner in Art of Homeownership, and then share that message out with whatever, and hopefully that little spark catches fire inside of their company. Because the thing that would make me personally the happiest, regardless, like you said, of if anybody joins Celebrity or joins Neo, is that the advice, the quality of advice given to families improves over time.
Yeah, I think what I've learned, and I'm learning more and more about you guys all the time, which is awesome. I love how it's not just anybody off the street can't just become part of the platform and program. There's a commitment and an expected set of behaviors, really, around how they deliver messaging and advice and this support to families, that it's not for everybody, right? And you guys vet your partners pretty intensely.
Yeah, Brian, in fact, the platform is exclusive. We only allow 2 partners per 100,000 population in any MSA. Yep. And before the technology, Art of Homeownership is a commitment, as you cited, and that's how we talk about it internally. So that Art of Homeownership, before anything else, is a commitment to a service level. Secondly, it's a community of people who have made that commitment, because we're not common in the industry. We're out there, but we're not common, right? So that community banding together is powerful, because there are people spending collectively billions of dollars to communicate the message that what's your rate is the only question that should be asked, right? And from that point, that there's nothing else that needs to be said. And then there's the group, the Art of Homeownership group, the Neo group, that believes that that's the saddest question in the mortgage industry. And we need to band together to communicate with our collective megaphone that what's your rate is not the question to be asking. And there's actually many other questions to be asking, because if we don't, then the consumer sentiment will change where we just can't be heard anymore. And that would be a very, very sad day for financial literacy in this country, because homeownership and the choice of financing has such a powerful impact on the future of a family's financial that their path towards financial freedom.
Yeah, and it can be generational, right? Yes. And you kind of already said that.
I'm experiencing it now. Yeah, I'm a personal example of that. Yes, exactly.
I love it. Well, man, this has been a blast, and just as I thought, I knew we were going to cover a ton of ground. So we'll when we post this, we'll share kind of how to get in touch with you, because I think there's folks that are going to be hearing about the Art of Homeownership for the first time, and certainly Neo, that are going to be interested. So we'll share how to get in touch with Danny. But I just want to thank you for spending some time with us today. As always, I learn and am inspired by you personally and what you're doing across your professional life. So thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, Brian, this was awesome. Thank you for having me, and we're having fun.
Right on. If you can't have fun, why do it, right?
Exactly.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next Friday. And again, thank you, Danny.
Cheers.